Hey everyone, welcome to another cross stitch vlog. My name is Jessica and I am a cross stitch pattern designer. And in this vlog, I'm going to be going through the process of finishing up a couple of my new designs, new patterns that I recently released. I meant to get this vlog out, closer to when I was releasing these patterns, but things just got busy. It's November. It's a busy time of year. So in this vlog, we're just going to go through kind of the finishing stages of getting these patterns ready for release. I wasn't feeling super chatty when I was filming some of these earlier clips for this vlog, so I'll be doing a voiceover just to talk about some of the things going on at this stage in the design process. This very first clip that you're seeing is me pulling off 11 rabbits from the qsnap for the first time after I finished stitching it, and it looks great. I'm so happy with how it turned out. I know that in an earlier vlog I had mentioned being kind of down on the design and not really liking how it looked like after finishing the pixel art. I just wasn't loving the final look of it, but now that it's all stitched up, I think it looks great. In this little clip, I am working on the pattern for I Like Cross Stitch, which is the second design I recently released. I'll show both of the finished pieces at the end of the video, and if that's all you want to see, you can skip ahead to that. I talk about the floss, the fabric, and all the inspiration for the piece at the end of the video. But here I am working on the PDF for the I Like Cross Stitch pattern. For this pattern, it has some initials and a year in there, and the alphabets and the numbers that I used for that charting is something I found in old cross stitch books. I was on Internet Archive looking through some of the public domain cross stitch pattern books on there, and there's a lot of cool resources, like a lot of interesting alphabets and motifs, borders, stuff like that, that's all public domain. And there's one alphabet that I found that you're seeing here that I really loved and wanted to use in this pattern. And so for the chart I'm releasing though, I needed to rechart it, make sure it's all easy to read and formatted correctly for the pattern. So I'm just copying it over pixel by pixel into my cross stitch pattern program, which what you're seeing here is PC Stitch Pro. That's the program I use for my charting. Now it's time to get some lacing done. I was putting this off so hard. I did not want to lace these pieces at all, but I had both the frames in my possession. There was no excuse. It just needed to get done. And so I popped on some YouTube that I had in my watch later and got to lacing. I show my process of lacing in more detail in an earlier video, which I will link below. I'm going to do a very abbreviated little time lapse of the lacing process here. If you have questions about lacing or anything like that, or what I'm doing in the video, feel free to comment below and I can try and elaborate on what I am doing. let's do a little check-in on where I'm at with everything. It's Friday right now. I laced everything earlier this week and that went pretty well. Here's how they turned out. I'll do more like detail talking about them and all the inspiration at the end of the video, but here is the final laced pieces. This one was, I think, easier. Yeah, I had an easier time with this one because with the lighter fabric, you're able to see the foam board underneath, so that made it easier to place it on the foam board initially and get it all clipped. With this one, the fabric's so dark, I couldn't see the foam board underneath, so it was just kind of a guessing game of getting it placed accurately. And then also these stitched motifs are not evenly spaced from the edge of the piece. So like this one is 1 pixel between it and the end, and then this one's like a couple more pixels. So it was hard to measure this one. I found that the most accurate measurements I could make were based off of this large motif at the bottom. I kind of measured the distance from like the top of this corner to the bottom on either side, and then from that edge, that little width right there, and that helped with the placement a lot. Up at the top, it's kind of doesn't matter as much because there aren't really any straight edges, and so after I was able to figure out that placement, like that measurement down there, it went okay. So it's all done. I'm so glad. I think I was procrastinating getting the lacing done. I really did not want to deal with it, so I'm glad it's done. And I also got pictures taken. I'll pop some of those I'll pop the 2 main photos that I took and how they look edited and everything. It was a really overcast day, and so I thought that they weren't going to turn out well, but I don't know, it worked out really well, and I didn't have to do much editing on the computer, which is awesome because I hate having to like really over edit. What ends up happening, the more editing I do, the more likely it is for there to be some color balance off, and I'm not noticing it at the moment. For this one, the I Like Cross Stitch, that kind of happened when I did some like minor editing. This hot pink here like really blew out, like really became super, super hot pink, way hotter pink than it is in person. But I'm using Lightroom now for editing, and it lets you select colors like with an eyedropper tool and then edit that within the photo. So I was able to like reduce the saturation of this pink in particular and get it looking more accurate, at least on my screen, which that's all I can go off by, right? I think my monitor is okay with color accuracy. It's not like the best in the industry, but also I can't afford that expensive of a monitor, so it's the best I can do, and I think it worked out. Like the picture looks really good in the end. I also tried doing some little videos of the stitched pieces because I really like the side angle shots where you see a view of the stitched piece that's not like straight on. I really like those shots, but the color accuracy, like with my phone camera, it's always auto adjusting things and it doesn't let me set any of that in the phone. So it's actually easier to pull screen caps from a video anyway. But yeah, I tried out the whole like little product video thing this time around. I got the idea while watching Lindy Stitches, one of the Stash Fest during like the Needlework Marketplace time frame this year. There was one designer, Snowflower Diaries. They included some little 10-second like product videos, and I thought that was really cool. And it was something that isn't too hard to do. At least in theory, it wasn't too hard to do. It turned out being a little bit more difficult than I anticipated because you're holding the camera and trying to smoothly and slowly pan over the piece, and there's just a lot of like shakiness as you're like what I found here, I'll post a little raw footage of what I took with my camera, which my iPhone does auto stabilize a little bit, but not enough to completely reduce the jitter. I was able to use my video editing program, which is Adobe Premiere, and they have something called a warp stabilizer, and that removed it almost entirely. But I'll do a little side by side because it's kind of funny seeing seeing how it turned out. I took a lot of clips and I found that warp stabilizer didn't work very well in some of them. So I'm glad that I took a lot of different shots trying to get it as smooth as possible, because I ended up needing to like pick one that for some reason the warp stabilization in my video editing program like agreed with it and could do it. I don't know what about it was an issue, so just took multiple shots and it worked out. But I found that keeping my like wrists locked and hands and like arms as like solid as possible and not moving them at all was the trick. Like I was just like slowly squatting and like bending forward, like tilting my body forward to get like the panning movement. It was really awkward, but that's what worked the best. I do have a little bit of a intention tremor, so my hands do like get jittery as I'm getting closer to my intended spot. So I'm sure that didn't help, but definitely like keeping my hands stable and like locked in place was the trick for me. And I think I'm going to continue doing that in the future for products. It helps with kind of, I think, judging the colors of the piece a little bit more. You can kind of see how the light interacts with the threads like at different angles of the camera, and yeah, I like it. I do think I need to cut down the length of it a tiny bit. I could actually do it now, like re-edit it and just like cut out some of the like initial pan down movement. I don't think like the zoom in, I think that's a little long in the videos, probably doesn't need to be there. I do like starting off like seeing the whole piece and then kind of getting closer in. But yeah, I'm gonna try and cut it down a little bit. I like the maybe a shorter zoom in and then a pan across, like flat on pan across the piece, and then a tilt, and then another pan across like at a 45-degree-ish angle. I think that worked out nicely, so that's cool. So I got all of that taken care of. I got a cattail coming in. Okay, Beans, come on. Okay, so I got everything photographed. I have most of the PDFs done for at least one of the patterns, the second pattern, the 11 rabbits. I still need to work on that today. And then I also need to get the cover photos figured out, like the printed cover photos. I've done the printout for I Like Cross Stitch. And here's the comparison, like in person, you can see, like this is the photo that looks really good on my screen, but when I print it, Beans, you can't be there. I need to show this. Okay, stay over there. So on my screen it looks, okay, one second. Here's the culprit right here. We're gonna put him down on this chair. All right, so I don't know if you can tell from the video, but the light orange in particular is not a good color match, I don't think. Like this looks more pink in the picture than it is right here on the pattern. And I think overall the photo looks a little too dark compared to the original piece, but the fabric looks good. Like the fabric looks right. Like this doesn't need to be any lighter, but it's all the stitching overall just looks a little bit too dark. But mostly what I want to correct or try and correct is this color right here and try and get that looking more accurate. I'm gonna try. I had a lot of issues trying to color correct during my needlework marketplace, like getting those looking accurate. So I don't know. I do have some like extra photo paper that had some bent corners from damage during shipping. So I'm gonna pop that in my printer and try some different things to see if I can get it looking more accurate. I still have to print out the 11 rabbits one and see if that's gonna work out. Hopefully on the first try, I hope, so I don't have to mess with that. But I need to work on this for sure today, along with finishing that PDF, because I already sent out the newsletter, the wholesale newsletter yesterday. So I've been getting some orders already, and I've said in the email that they're not gonna ship until Tuesday. So I have until Tuesday to get everything sorted and get things printed, and get everything sent out. That's where that's at. I got the cover pages all sorted out now, and I'm in the process of printing them right now. Hopefully the printer in the background is not too loud, but here's a little side-by-side comparison. This was the original print right here that I had shown earlier. And then this is what it looks like now. So it's definitely a lot less like pinky red in that area. And then compared to the actual stitched piece, much closer, still not exactly spot on, but I mean, I think that is pretty accurate. And if I got a pattern and this was the cover page, I would not be disappointed in that color accuracy. It's pretty close to the original stitch piece. And then for the 11 rabbits one, this one turned out really well too. If I was being like super nitpicky, it maybe is this orange for the dragon is maybe a little bit more red in the photo than it is in person. But once again, like it's really hard to get it completely accurate. And that is super close. I found that, so I had been printing these cover pages off of my PC because I couldn't figure out borderless printing on my Mac. It's new to me. I have used PC almost my entire life with the exception of, you know, like having an iPad and that sort of thing. So I have a Mac desktop now and I did not know how to do borderless, and for some reason I couldn't find it on Google. Like I guess it was just so simple of an answer that it was not easy to find. But yeah, I figured that out and now I can do borderless printing from my Mac, and just printing it off of the Mac is what changed what went from this to this. Like I didn't do any other filtering or anything. Just using the Mac for printing is what produced this result. It's really interesting how like just printing from a different program or application or computer can have such an effect on how the photo prints out. I don't really understand it. I don't understand much of it. So I'm just glad that it's working out and it was an easy solution. So yeah, I'm in kind of like, let me grab this. I am in like preparation phase. These are the orders that I have currently right here, like on the left sold column. And I put in how many I already have printed out because there were a lot of orders for some older patterns, and then I'm in the process of printing this out. I have a little stack here of some of the older patterns printed, and then over here these are also some older patterns, but these are the half page ones that I have to cut. So I'm going to just get packing up some of those older patterns. I've gone through like the 2 new patterns like repeatedly, like the PDFs, instructions and patterns for mistakes. I've been checking them quite a few times, so I think they're ready to print out, but I figured I can get started on the old stuff while I'm working on getting the 2 new patterns printed right now. It is finally time to talk about my 2 models. I am going to be going through my inspiration for both of these, the supplies I use like the fabric and the thread, and then where you can purchase the patterns if you're interested in stitching them. So let me first pull the frame for this one so you can see it all fancy like. This is I Like Cross Stitch. This is something I designed back in December of last year. It's almost December now in 2025, so it's been a long time coming. Both of these patterns actually are the largest patterns I've ever designed. This one is the largest even compared to the 11 rabbits. So this is the largest, around 19,000 stitches. Pretty big, pretty big for me. And it took a long time because I needed that break. I needed that break from stitching it. I was getting, I get bored of looking at a certain color palette, but it was a very fun stitch overall. And I am kind of glad I spaced it out because it made me enjoy it more, I think, than trying to do the entire thing in like the span of a month, which I did for 11 rabbits. But let's talk about the inspiration for this piece. It's inspired by cross stitch, of course, and liking cross stitch, loving cross stitch. I am a very new cross stitcher. I only started in 2022. But when I was getting into cross stitch and kind of looking at all the pattern options, both things that are, new to the cross stitch world and like older cross stitch, like reproduction samplers and things from, like the 90s, early 2000s, it was interesting seeing how different time periods have very distinct motifs that reappear kind of frequently. And so I wanted to create a cross stitch pattern that kind of captured some of those frequent motifs into one pattern. So this is, of course, my perception of cross stitch and things that I see more frequently, probably things that I'm more drawn to. I'm sure if someone else made something like this with that prompt in mind, they would come up with totally different motifs. But, currently there's a lot of moths in cross stitch patterns, big moths in particular. See a lot of berry bowls and like more reproduction type samplers, mermaids, that's referencing like all the fancy ladies. I have little geese and teddy bear. Some birds, of course, very frequent subject in cross stitch. This is a little gravestone-like motif, those angels. I'm not sure if this has a specific name, but the little angel motif that appears in a lot of the tombstone stitches. There's a house. Gotta have a house. My two cats made an appearance. Little heart in hand. I included an eye because I feel like a lot of the modern cross-stitch pieces, there's a big, like witch theme, Halloween theme, tarot type theme, and so that's where I drew that motif from. And of course a lot of florals, because florals are just fun and they make an appearance in cross-stitch all the time. So that is the inspiration behind the piece. This is a 40 count Zweigart linen in the color apricot. And I have gotten some questions about alternative fabrics for this. I don't think this particular color comes in all counts. So I do have some suggestions for fabric alternatives if you're looking for them. This, of course, could be stitched on a white or cream, and I think it would look great. All the colors would definitely show up on that. And this is very close to like a cream already. This right here I have is Zweigart Blush. On camera it kind of looks white, but this is blush. It's a light pink. So this could be an option. There is a Picture This Plus called Mesa, and I've seen it at my LNS. It's actually one of the fabrics I considered for this piece. And it has that light apricot color as well, but it also is modeled and has some darker modeling, darker than this in the apricot color. So the only concern with that is that this DMC, the 722, might not show up as well on the Picture This Plus Mesa. I think it also depends on, just the dye lot, and the placement on the fabric could really affect how things contrast. But that is an option if you're looking for a more hand-dyed look. If you're considering other colors, I think the thing to watch out for is just to make sure that the 722 and this like light pink, the 352, those both show up on whatever fabric you choose. Like do a floss toss, swatch, whatever it is, to make sure those show up in particular. I think that you could also do a light blue, would look really pretty, but then you want to make sure that this Threadworks color really shows up, and maybe even this light gray. Those two would be like the concern colors, like colors that could go wrong on a different fabric choice, like the light blue. So just watch out for that if you're switching to like the light blue, light gray color. But I think those could look really pretty as well. I have the Threadworks here that I used in the pattern. It's Threadworks 10140. And the DMC that I listed as the conversion for it is 809. I'm going to attempt to show it in here, but I don't know how this is going to go. Okay, let me find it first. I have the Threadworks there, and then right below it is the swatch for 809. So you can kind of see how it compares. It's close. It's close. It's not exactly the same, which is always the struggle with using over-dyed flosses, but that's how it compares to the recommendation. I think that the Threadworks compared to the 809, DMC 809, has some lighter areas in it, some lighter, it's not called modeling, variegation, that's the word. The variegation in it goes a little bit lighter than the 809, but I think the darker area in the Threadworks matches that 809. But that is the one Threadworks I have in it, and then the rest are all DMC. So that is, I like cross stitch. This frame is an 11 by 14 inch frame, so it does fit in a standard size when it's stitched on the 40 count. I got this frame from Signed and Numbered like I usually do for my frames, and I have this. It is, what is the style? The style is double cove of 1 by 1 inch and in the color Vintage Rose. There we go. Yay! I love this one. With this frame, it is not super thick compared to some of their styles, which I knew in advance, and you can kind of see there's not a ton of room left in the depth of it after putting this on foam board. If you were able to like lace this on mat board, that frame would probably fit a lot better, but with something this big, I don't know, the mat board might be hard to lace it on because it'll just kind of start bending more easily. That's how I like cross stitch. All right, here is my model for 11 rabbits, all in its frame. This one's also by Signed and Numbered. It's a different style though. It's the Foxy Cove, and it's in a vintage wood tone color. This one is 9 inches by 14 inches, so not a standard frame size, but I feel like you could get away with doing not as close of a frame job. Like the margins can be a little bit different in sizing. They don't need to be even because it is not a square. Like there's no rectangle. 1 second, let me move Beans. He's starting to get a little bit too aggressive with the phone stand. So take into account like the frame you want for this when you're, placing this on fabric, because it could have larger margins since it's such a irregular shape on the border of it. Yeah, this is 11 rabbits. The inspiration for this was kind of all over the place, a little bit all over the place. I was stitching Sprouting Lupin's Unicorn Garden. Sorry, I don't know the exact title name, but I will post a picture here. I was stitching on that, and Kat's original inspiration for that, I remember her saying it was the medieval tapestries, the unicorn in captivity in particular. There's a little unicorn. Beans is going crazy right now, so he might be making a fuss in the background. So unicorn in captivity. And when I was stitching on it, I was just thinking about how it'd be fun to design my own pattern inspired by that medieval tapestry. And so I ended up creating this design. I wasn't interested in doing another unicorn because I have stitched quite a few unicorns in the past. And so I wanted something different. I wanted to do a dragon instead, but I still wanted the contrast of the white or cream against the super dark background, like the unicorn in the tapestry. So I included these little bunnies instead of a unicorn. There are 11 of them, so that's where the title comes from, 11 rabbits. And as I was stitching this, I was thinking about the fact that it kind of looks like this dragon wants to eat these bunnies, which is not what I was thinking when I designed the pattern. I was thinking of them more like friends, all in this area, fantasy area. And so my dragon, I've decided, is vegetarian. And that's just what we're going with. It's a vegetarian dragon with 11 little bunnies in this very maximalist background. I went a little overboard adding in all these blue little designs after having all the plant life in there. I just really enjoy filling a space with doodles. So that is how this pattern came to be. This pattern is stitched on a 40 count Cedar River linen in the color Arboreal. I originally was going to stitch this on Fox and Rabbit seaweed, and I still think it would look really good on it. This is the seaweed down here. Mine, of course, is the Arboreal, because it does have a little bit more of a blue tint to the seaweed fabric. But the reason I didn't stitch it on seaweed is because it's really hard to get seaweed right now. It comes in stock and then it's out of stock in a couple days. So I just went with something that hopefully is easier to get. And there's like little threads here sticking out from my lacing. I also think you could do this on a even more blue fabric if you really wanted these blue details to kind of blend more in with the background. It could be on a darker blue or even like a mid-tone blue would work. I think the caution with going to a lighter fabric like a white or a cream wouldn't really work because of the little bunnies here, but maybe like a mid-tone brown could also work with this. You would just want to make sure that the colors in these bunnies contrast well enough to make them stand out, because some areas of the bunny, like underneath, is bordered by the dark navy in this pattern, but a lot of it is, you know, coming into contact with the fabric, and the fabric is what's creating the contrast for them. So that's the key thing to look out for with choosing a different fabric color. For the flosses on this, I used DMC and Gentle Art threads. There are only 2 Gentle Art threads, and they are Midnight, which is the navy, and Tomato, which is a red-orange. And I'm going to show you them compared to the DMC conversion. So for the Gentle Art Tomato, DMC 900 is the conversion. Let's see if I can, that's better. This is the DMC and this is the Gentle Art. And then for Midnight, the navy, the DMC conversion is 3750 up here on the top. And then this is the Gentle Art down here. So that one's very close. I ended up using, so this is on 40 count, I stitched 1/2. This is how much I have left of the Tomato. This is a 5-yard skein of Gentle Art. So I didn't need a full skein, but it came close to the end, especially if you are stitching on a count lower than 40, pick up 2 of the Tomato. I think you'll need it, especially if it's 2/2 or 2/1. For the Midnight, I ended up using a full skein. So I used a full skein of the 5-yard, and then this is how much I have left of the second skein. So definitely will need 2 skeins, even on 40 count. If for the Midnight, maybe even 3 skeins if you're using 2 strands. So keep that in mind. And then of course, all the DMC, lots of browns, and definitely a more muted palette than my usual. I am missing the 166 in here because I ran out of it or I used it all up, but that's what we got for the palette. A very autumny palette. It matches the little fall trees I have on my sweater. So these are the 2 pieces that are all finished now, and the patterns are up in my shop. I have the PDFs in my Etsy and Ko-Fi, which I have linked below. And then for physical patterns, if you prefer like a paper printed out pattern, I will put a list here of all the needlework shops that have already purchased these patterns from me. I do have a list on my website that has all the retailers of my physical patterns, but a lot of those shops don't have these 2 recent patterns. So I'll just put the ones specifically that have these patterns. I'll list them all right here, and you can get in touch with them if you'd like to pick up a physical copy. Yay! Thank you all so much for watching. I am all done with blabbering on about these 2 patterns. Thank you to everyone who has already picked up one of these patterns. These will be my last 2 releases for 2025. I'm already thinking about 2026 though, and getting very excited about the new patterns that I have planned for my next release. So I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.